Alice Walker's The Color Purple, 1982, is a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel that has become a cornerstone of African American literature and feminist discourse. Through a deeply personal and epistolary narrative, the novel traces the spiritual, emotional, and intellectual evolution of Celie, a poor African American woman in the early 20th century American South. The novel explores racism, sexism, violence, sexuality, sisterhood, and spiritual awakening, offering a rich, painful, and ultimately redemptive journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Told largely through letters written by Celie, many addressed to God and later to her sister Nettie, The Color Purple foregrounds the voice of a silenced woman and charts her transformation from oppression to liberation. Walker's work is notable not just for its thematic complexity, but also for its linguistic authenticity, narrative structure, and intersectional feminist perspective. Celie's early life and abuse. The novel opens with 14-year-old Celie writing a letter to God, confessing that she is being sexually abused by the man she believes is her father, later revealed to be her stepfather. She has 2 children by him, both taken away. Her mother dies, and she is married off to Mr. Albert, a cruel man who originally wanted to marry Celie's younger and prettier sister, Nettie. Mr. treats Celie as little more than a servant and subject to physical and emotional abuse. When Nettie flees their home and attempts to stay with them, Mr. drives her away. Nettie promises to write, but Celie never receives any letters, reinforcing her isolation and despair. Life with Mr. and meeting Shug Avery. Celie's life with Mr. is hard and loveless. She raises his children and is constantly demeaned. However, her world begins to change when she meets Shug Avery, a glamorous blues singer and Mr.'s longtime lover. Shug is confident, independent, and sexually free, everything Celie is not. Celie initially resents Shug but is soon captivated by her charisma. Shug becomes a mentor, friend, and eventually Celie's lover, opening her eyes to the possibility of love, respect, and joy. Their relationship catalyzes Celie's transformation. The discovery of Nettie's letters. One of the most pivotal moments in the novel occurs when Shug discovers that Mr. has been hiding Nettie's letters from Celie for years. The letters reveal that Nettie has been living in Africa as a missionary with the family who adopted Celie's children, Olivia and Adam. Nettie details her travels, cultural observations, and spiritual struggles. This revelation is profound. Not only is Nettie alive, but Celie's children are too. The letters rekindle Celie's sense of self, history, and agency. She begins to assert herself, confronting Mr. and eventually leaving him to live with Shug. Celie's empowerment and new life. After leaving Mr., Celie moves to Memphis with Shug and begins a new life. She starts her own business, sewing and designing pants, which becomes a symbol of her independence and creativity. Celie's personality blossoms. She learns to stand up for herself, express her thoughts, and embrace her own worth. She also begins to redefine her relationship with God, moving from a punitive, distant deity to a more pantheistic and loving spiritual presence, found in nature and beauty. Meanwhile, Nettie continues writing from Africa, discussing the Alinka people, colonialism, gender oppression, and missionary challenges. These letters offer a global perspective on the issues Celie faces at home, showing the universality of women's oppression and resilience. Redemption and reunion. Mr. undergoes a transformation of his own, mellowing with age and remorse. He and Celie develop a friendship based on mutual respect, though they do not rekindle a romantic relationship. Eventually, Nettie returns from Africa, bringing Olivia and Adam with her. The novel ends with a joyous reunion. Celie, now surrounded by family and grounded in her identity, reflects on the beauty of life and the miracle of survival. Character analysis. Celie. Celie is the novel's protagonist and narrator. At the beginning, she is voiceless, abused, and oppressed, both physically and emotionally. Her self-worth has been eroded by years of trauma. Yet, through love, friendship, self-discovery, and spiritual awakening, Celie undergoes a remarkable transformation. She evolves into a confident, independent, and self-loving woman, capable of compassion, creativity, and joy. Her narrative is a powerful testament to the human capacity for growth, healing, and redemption. Shug Avery. Shug is a catalyst for Celie's awakening. She is sensual, artistic, outspoken, and complex. Though flawed and sometimes selfish, Shug helps Celie reclaim her body, her mind, and her spirituality. Their relationship is groundbreaking in its representation of Black female same-sex love in mainstream literature. Shug also represents a more inclusive, spiritual vision of God and humanity, helping Celie reshape her beliefs. Nettie. Nettie, Celie's sister, is intelligent, kind, and brave. She offers a foil to Celie, similarly oppressed but granted opportunities for education and travel. Nettie's letters provide historical and cultural context, connecting the African American experience to African identity, colonialism, and missionary work. Her survival and return are vital to Celie's healing and the novel's theme of sisterhood and perseverance. Mr. Albert. Mr. begins as a violent, oppressive figure, perpetuating the patriarchy and abuse Celie has always known. However, over time, he experiences a moral reckoning. He acknowledges his wrongs, seeks redemption, and ultimately forms a respectful bond with Celie. His evolution highlights the possibility of male transformation, though it is not necessary for Celie's liberation. Sophia. Sophia is another strong female character, bold, defiant, and unwilling to submit to male or white authority. Her resistance leads to brutal consequences: imprisonment and forced servitude after she refuses to work as a maid for the mayor's wife. Despite her suffering, Sophia remains a symbol of Black female strength and resistance, demonstrating the costs and value of defiance. Major themes and analysis. 1. Gender oppression and patriarchy. The novel vividly portrays the brutality of patriarchal power, particularly within the Black community. Women like Celie, Sophia, and Nettie endure domestic violence, sexual abuse, and subjugation, often from Black men who themselves are victims of systemic racism. Walker critiques not only white supremacy but also internalized misogyny, showing how the oppressed can become oppressors. Celie's journey is one of breaking free from male domination and discovering self-worth beyond male validation. 2. Sexuality and female desire. The color purple is revolutionary in its exploration of Black female sexuality. Celie begins the novel with no understanding of pleasure, seeing sex only as pain and obligation. Her relationship with Shug, however, introduces her to affectionate, consensual, and joyful sexuality. Walker presents queer love not as deviant but as healing and liberatory. Celie's sexual awakening is integral to her emotional and spiritual rebirth. 3. Spirituality and God. Celie initially addresses her letters to a traditional Christian God, seeking solace in the only power she knows. Over time, influenced by Shug's pantheistic beliefs, Celie redefines her spirituality. She begins to see God not as a man in the sky but as beauty, nature, love, and joy. This transformation reflects Walker's womanist theology, a spirituality that centers Black women's experience and rejects oppressive dogma. 4. Racism and colonialism. Though focused on gender and personal liberation, the novel also examines racial injustice, particularly through Nettie's letters. Nettie's missionary work exposes the impacts of European colonialism on African culture, especially the ways Western religion and capitalism exploit Native communities. Back in America, characters like Sophia face systemic racism, police brutality, and economic inequality. Walker draws a powerful connection between racial and gender oppression, emphasizing the intersectional nature of injustice. 5. Sisterhood and solidarity. One of the novel's most enduring themes is female bonding and mutual support. Whether through biological ties, Celie and Nettie, friendships, Sophia and Celie, or romantic love, Celie and Shug, women nurture one another, teach, heal, and protect. This sisterhood becomes the foundation of Celie's empowerment, countering the isolation and cruelty inflicted by male violence. 6. Language and voice. Celie's letters, initially directed to God, later to Nettie, serve as a narrative diary that tracks her inner transformation. Her writing style begins as grammatically rough and hesitant, reflecting her limited education and lack of self-worth. As Celie grows, her voice becomes clearer, stronger, and more confident. The evolution of language mirrors her personal liberation. By the end of the novel, Celie speaks and writes with authority, embodying her reclaimed identity. 7. Creativity and economic independence. Celie's decision to start her own sewing business marks a critical turning point. Designing pants, traditionally male clothing, symbolizes her rejection of gender norms and her embrace of personal expression and self-sufficiency. Economic autonomy enables Celie to live without dependency on men, reinforcing the novel's message that creative and financial independence are essential to liberation. Symbolism. The color purple symbolizes beauty, joy, and the presence of God in ordinary things. Shug explains that God gets angry when people ignore the color purple in a field, meaning, life's simple wonders are sacred. Letters represent communication, survival, and identity. Writing allows Celie and Nettie to maintain their bond and resist erasure. Pants. Celie's business venture is both literal and symbolic. Making pants for women defies gender norms and affirms her creativity and independence. God. Not merely a religious figure, but a representation of personal faith, evolving from judgmental to benevolent, mirroring Celie's spiritual journey. Narrative style and structure. Walker employs an epistolary format, using Celie's and Nettie's letters to present multiple perspectives and timelines. This structure allows for emotional intimacy and reveals the characters' thoughts, growth, and evolving worldview in their own words. The use of dialect and non-standard English adds authenticity and character depth. It reflects Celie's socio-economic background but also emphasizes her unique voice and perspective. Critical reception and legacy. Upon publication, The Color Purple was praised for its emotional power, feminist vision, and literary innovation. It won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award in 1983, making Alice Walker the first black woman to receive the Pulitzer for fiction. However, it also sparked controversy, particularly for its portrayal of black men as abusers. Some critics accused Walker of reinforcing negative stereotypes, though many others defended the novel as a realistic and courageous depiction of intersectional oppression. The novel has since been adapted into a Tony-winning Broadway musical and a Steven Spielberg film, 1985, with a 2023 musical film adaptation bringing renewed attention. Today, The Color Purple is a foundational text in both African American and feminist literature, studied for its themes of liberation, identity, and resilience. Conclusion. Alice Walker's The Color Purple is a powerful exploration of female empowerment, spiritual awakening, and the human capacity for transformation. Through Celie's voice, the novel gives life to women long silenced by violence, poverty, and social marginalization. More than a tale of suffering, the novel is a celebration of survival, of finding beauty in adversity, forging connections across distance, and discovering one's voice. With its lyrical prose, nuanced characters, and rich thematic tapestry, The Color Purple remains a timeless affirmation of human dignity and hope.